Hello guys, welcome back to VC Tech. In today's video, we are going to be diving into one of the most essential services in any network, configuring a DHCP server on a router. DHCP is the backbone of automated IP address assignments, and running it directly on a router gives your network more flexibility, control, and reliability. Today, I'll walk you step by step through how to set up DHCP pool, assign default gateway, exclude IP addresses, and verify everything. By the end of this tutorial, you will understand not only how to configure a DHCP server, and also why it is such a crucial feature in modern networks. Before we get into configuration, let's see the benefits of DHCP server on a router. So why DHCP matters on a router is it automatically assigns IP address to devices. It also reduces manual IP configuration as it minimizes the error in addressing, and it also simplifies network administration. The benefits of DHCP server on a router is it is a centralized IP address management as it ensures consistent and reliable IP assignments. It works seamlessly with routing and VLANs. It also makes network expansion easier. Now, the importance of this is it boosts automation and efficiency. It also reduces downtime from IP conflicts, and it supports multi-VLAN and multi-subnet environments. Lastly, it enhances network reliability and performance. So with that being said, let's head over to our configuration where we get to see how this is configured on a router. So for this tutorial, we are going to be using one router, 2 switches, and 4 PCs. And as it implies, DHCP server on a router. We also have our guideline for this tutorial as we'll be using this guideline. First, we need to assign IP addresses to the interface on the router. Remember guys, the interface on the router is always serving as a default gateway as we have here. It serves as a default gateway for this local area network. So let's jump into it and configure IP address on that default gateway. So first we want to say enable and configure terminal. So guys, for this local area network over here, we are going to be using 192.168.10.0 as the network, while over here we'll be using 192.168.20.0. For the default gateway on the local area network, we'll be using 10.1 for this local area network, and the interface will be interface gig 0/0. We want to say no shots. Then we want to assign IP address to that interface, which is 192.168.10.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.0, which is the /24 subnet. So by doing this, we've assigned IP address to this interface. Let's also assign IP address to the second local area network. So we can do that by interface gig 0/1, say no shots, and we assign IP address to it by 192.168.20.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.0. So we've assigned IP address to the interfaces on the router. Let's check what we have next on our notepad. So now we have to activate DHCP server on the router. We can do that by saying service DHCP. By doing that, we are letting the router know that it is going to be serving as a DHCP server, as it will assign IP address to host devices. So before we get into the main part of this tutorial, let's try to get IP address from the DHCP and let's see if it's going to be possible. And as you can see guys, we are unable to get a valid IP address because we've not configured the DHCP server on the router. So let's get into that now. So first we need to create a DHCP pool, which is this one. So let's do that. And remember guys, we have two local area networks for this tutorial. So it means we have to create two DHCP pool that will be assigning IP address to 10.0 network and also 20.0 network. So let's get into how we assign IP address. First we say IP DHCP, then we say pool. For this, the pool here is serving as the name. The pool here means the name, however it is called pool. So for this we want to name this IT. So this local area network will be taking the pool name of IT. We also want to specify the network, as if we do this we are going to see the things that we can configure. We can configure the default router, we can also configure a DNS server, a domain name, a network, and to negate no commands on the DHCP pool. So for this we need to specify the network. So the network is 192.168.10.0 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Remember guys, we are specifying the network and not the default gateway. That is why we have 192.168.10.0, because that is the network. Now we have to specify the default gateway, which is 192.168.10.1, which is the gateway of this interface, like the way that these devices will be using to leave the local area network to access the internet. So that's the default gateway. We also want to specify a DNS server, and for this we want to be using the Google DNS server, which is 8.8.8. So by doing this guys, we've configured a DHCP server on the router. Now let's also do the same for the second local area network. Let's check our notepad. Well, let's create the DHCP for this local area network first, then we are going to exclude IP address. So before we do that, let's also check if we can get IP address and it's going to be yes, we are not able to get a valid IP address. Now let's go back to our router and configure DHCP server for the second local area network. So as I said, IP DHCP pool, and for that local area network we want to use HR, and we want to specify the network, which is 192.168.20.0 with a subnet mask of 255.255.0. We also want to specify the default gateway of that local area network, which is 192.168.20.1, and we want to assign a DNS server to that DHCP pool, which will be taking, alright, let's use a different DNS server for this local area network. Let's use 192.168.10.2. So we are using this local area network over here. We'll be using its DNS server for this local area network. I hope you understand. Anyways, so we've configured DHCP server for both local area networks. Now let's try to get IP address. As you can see guys, we are able to get IP address for this local area network. However, it's not showing us our default gateway, but let's do that one more time. So guys, we have our IP address. This device has gotten an IP address, it has also gotten the default gateway of the local area network and also the DNS server. Let's also check for this device. We've also gotten an IP address for this device. Now take note guys, we've configured DHCP server and it is assigning IP address to the host devices as it should. However, the IP address is for this device is 192.168.10.3, while the previous device is 10.2. We are going to do something about that, as we want the IP address to start from 192.168.10.10. That is where we want the IP address to start from. So let's also check for this local area network and see if the devices, well, this one has an IP address but without a DNS server. Let's try that one more time, and it's all correct. It also has 192.168.20.2 with a DNS server of 192.168.10.2. So that is how DHCP server on a router works. Now let's go and check our last configuration for this tutorial, which is exclude IP address. Now what this means is we are trying to remove a certain IP address that imagine you have a DNS server and you have a printer. So these devices, the IP address, you want the IP address to remain the same. You don't want the IP address changing, so you exclude a particular IP address for those devices, so the IP will not constantly change. So how do we do that? See, IP DHCP exclude. So this is now telling us that we are trying to exclude a certain IP address from being assigned to the local area device, which are the host devices. So how do we do that? We say 192.168.10.1. So we say from 1 to 192.168.10.10. So we are reserving this IP address from 1 to 10 for the servers in the network, those devices which we don't want the IP address to be changing. Imagine like our DHCP server IP address changing, or DNS server IP address is changing. So we don't want that. By doing this, we've excluded 192.168.10.1 to 10.10 on the first local area network. Let's also do the same for the second local area network. Then we test our configuration. So we can just do this. We can just bring up the previous one that we did, and we say exclude 20.1 to 20.10. By doing this, we've excluded a certain IP address from it being assigned to host devices on the local area network. Now let's check that one more time. Remember, this device still has 192.168.10.2, but we want to change that. We want to give this device a different IP address. As you can see, the IP address now starts from 11, because we've told the router that we've excluded a certain IP address from the DHCP pool that we created. We've removed 10 IP address that those IP address will be serving for the servers in the network, while the other IP address can be assigned to host devices on the network. Let's also check the second device. This device has 10.12, as they are no longer assigning IP address from 2, 3, or 4 anymore, since we've already excluded those IP addresses. Let's check for this one. Then we try to ping for connectivity. Yes, we are able to get our configuration for a DHCP server is accurate, and we are also able to get IP address, and we also excluded certain IP address from being assigned to host devices. Now let's try to ping and test for connectivity. 192.168.10.11. So guys, our configuration is accurate, as we are able to ping this local area network from this local area network. So we can also check for our configuration by doing do show run to see what we just did. We excluded a certain IP address, 10 IP address, from it being assigned to host devices, And as you can see, we also created our DHCP pool and we named it IT, and this is the network and the subnet, and also the default gateway that the devices will be using to go outside the network, and also a DNS server. We also have the same for our second local area network. Now guys, this is how we configure a DHCP server on a router, and we also exclude certain IP address from being assigned to host devices. If this tutorial helped you understand how DHCP server works on a router and how to configure it, why not give me a like and subscribe to this channel, so whenever there is a new update of tech videos, you're going to be the first to know. Thank you guys, and see you in the next video.